Welcome to the Middleware Tech YouTube channel. In this series, you'll learn about Spring Boot using AOP. All code examples used in the videos will be available on GitHub. Let's get started.
Also very good. I'll show you the demonstration. The lab is already there. I'll just execute it and show you how it works. I'll not execute the lab theoretically. Now here in Spring AOP, first of all we have to know that what is AOP and where this AOP is used in Spring framework. What is AOP? And where I'm going to use this AOP in Spring framework. That we have to know first. Then now when we use any particular use case, assume the name of the use case is login or the registration. Any one of the use case if you think about, or registration. Or any use case like bank use case. Think about bank and use case. What I'm going to do? I'm going to withdraw. Use this. Or I am going to deposit. This is the use case, right? Or I'm going to check balance. I have to send, not like this. These are some of the use cases you can think of any banking application. Right. Now, what I'm talking about AOP, or where AOP come into picture. AOP come into picture in your service layer. In the service layer, we talked about this service layer. This is my controller layer. This controller layer is interacting with the service layer. Service layer is interacting with the DAO layer. DAO layer is going to interact with the database. This is how the complete communication. Now DAO layer already we know it is responsible to interact with the database. Any service that I want to implement with database interaction that comes with the DAO layer. What will come in the service layer? Some of the utility services that you want to execute. Now the core service like transaction, to email, to logger. This type of services comes under the service layer. You want to expose something as a web service to the external world. So to how we can implement these services in the service layer. It's not actual database CUDA operation inside of the data select. Right? So how we can implement this service layer? For this, Spring framework came with AOP. For this, Spring framework came with AOP. AOP. AOP full name is Aspect Oriented Programming. It's the full name of AOP. Now, what does it mean by aspect? Here, aspect is there, right? Aspect. What does it mean by aspect? Aspect means is service. So if I say service-oriented programming, then also you can say. But as per API specification, try to use the name called aspect, because Spring API specification is not saying it as a service, it is saying it as an aspect. Aspect means service. Now there is another terms in AOP. We should know these terms very well. Another is called advice. What is the meaning of advice? Advice means service provider. Service provider. Who is providing the service? His name is advice. The service name is aspect. So as for example, transaction is a service. It is an aspect. Email is a service. It's an aspect. Logger is a service. It's an aspect. Service provider means who is providing the service. That is called advice. Who is providing the service? So who will provide the service? A method. Who will provide the service? Who will provide the transaction service? Any method will provide transaction service. Who will provide the logger service? Any method. Who will provide that web service? Any method. So service provider is always a method. That is called advice. You have to remember the technical term. Advice means service provider based on AOP concept. Now here I have taken one bank use case. From bank use case perspective, any banking application, you will find deposit, withdraw, check balance or find balance, or fund transfer, if I want to say, fund transfer. These are the very common use cases in banking application. Sometimes, right? Any banking application, these are the very common use cases. I am talking about in which scenario I should go for AOP. Just I want to talk about that. That's why I'm coming with this bank use case. Now, when talking about these functionalities, just see, I'm talking about only one aspect. The name of the aspect is transaction. I want to withdraw some money from my bank account. I want to withdraw some money from my bank account. So after withdrawing money, the amount should be deducted from the actual account. And this operation I have to put inside transaction. As you know, right? Transaction. So transaction is required. Yes. Now I want to deposit some money inside the bank. So when I'm going to deposit, the amount should be added with the exact amount that is available in the bank account. Right? So we have to put this operation in transaction. Transaction required. That operation, assume you have added the money and money not added in the bank account, then what will happen? So you have to put that operation in the transaction. You have to make it a unit of work. That means transaction required. Then I'm going for check balance. I want to check what is the balance in my actual account through my debit card or in the bank itself, ATM itself. So if I'm going to check the balance, either whether I have done any update in the backend, no update. Just whatever is there, I want to check the details. So if I'm not going to do any update in the backend, that means transaction not required. Similarly, if I want to transfer some fund from one system to another system, from one bank account to another bank account, what will happen is that the funds should be deducted from the source bank account, and that fund should be added into the destination bank account. And both the operation you have to put in the transaction. Right? Else, money deducted from the source account, not deposited in the destination account. it should not happen, right? That's why transaction came. So transaction is required. Now see the scenario for bank use case. If I use this for functionality, for some functionality I need transaction or service or aspect, and for some functionality I don't need transaction. So generally transaction is required only for DML operations. Transaction is required mainly for DML operations, right? Now so see here we have another one technical term. You remember this technical term. Name of the term is point cut. Point cut. What does it mean? See here. For a specific method, I need transaction. For a specific method, I don't need transaction. For a specific method, we need transaction. For some specific method, we don't need transaction. Right? So what does it mean by point cut? Point cut is a condition to execute a aspect for a business method. What is this? This is a business method, right? These are business method. Some business method I need the aspect, some business method I don't need aspect. So who will decide that? That will be decided by a condition called point cut. So what is point cut? It is a service. It is a condition. It is a condition. Point cut is a condition. It's a condition to execute a service. Condition to execute a service for business method. Business method. So point cut is a condition to execute a service for a business method. Right? So these technical terms you should be familiar, you know. We have some other concept called join points. Same like that. Some condition based on what? Right? Okay. Now I have this for functionality. Okay. As for example, assume, let me take another one business method. And let me take another one business method. E-commerce use case, any e-commerce use case, e-commerce application. I have a business method. Assume the name of the, I have a business method. Okay. Name of the business method is login. Assume this is the business method for an e-commerce application. Okay. Now, this e-commerce application that you're talking about, it's a very secure application. Top giant. So automatically, who is going to do the login, and it's going each and every details should be logged. If you are going to log in at a particular time, and if you're going to log out from the system, your login and log out details completely gets recorded. Even whatever you have done in this application, that also gets recorded. The applications are like this. Now, if login is my business method, right? Now, how I can implement, assume this aspect. Here, business method is this. What is the aspect? Aspect is transaction. Here, business method is login. What is the aspect? I want to use aspect as logging. Logger. Login is a business method. I want to use the aspect as a logger. That means it is going to log user details. So how I can log the user details? As per AOP, there is 4 different approach how I can log the user details for a particular business method. These are called method before advice. Then we have after returning advice. What does it mean? Let me tell you. Method before advice. What does it mean? Method before advice means when I'm going to execute this login, whenever login gets executed, the logger should get executed first. So first logger, then login. It should be like this. In case of method before advice, this is the aspect that gets executed before the business function. Similarly, after returning advice. After returning advice means, you remember the term. After returning advice means what? After returning advice means first business method gets executed. After that, aspect should get executed. This aspect should get executed after the business method. That is called after returning advice. Similarly, I have another one that is called method interceptor. Method interceptor. What does it mean by method interceptor? Method interceptor means I want to execute this aspect before and after advice. Method interceptor means I want to execute this aspect before and after advice. Okay, and we have another one type of service that is called throws advice. Throws advice. What does it mean? Throws advice means if the business throws some exception, then only the aspect will get executed. Right? If business have exception, then aspect gets executed. That's it. Right? Okay. Now, these are the things. Lots of things is there in AOP. How we're going to implement programmatic, non-programmatic, declarative. Lots of approaches there. Our understanding is that we'll talk about aspect-oriented programming using Springboot. We'll see any one of the functionality like method before advice or after returning advice or method interceptor, how I can execute using Springboot using AOP. Any one of the functionality you want to execute, right? So in aspect-oriented programming using Springboot, this is a topic. Control C. Then how I can implement. There is lots of things you cannot end here because it is a huge module itself. Now this our focus here. This is our focus here. Right? So how I can create a Springboot in AOP? First point is that, as you know, yes, I have to create a project using a Spring initializer, create project. That we already know. Second point is that we have to load the project in the Eclipse. Third point, You have to add some dependency. This is the common, right? Now, in case of AOP, we have to remember there is a separate starter template is there that is called Springboot Starter AOP. Okay, Springboot Starter AOP. Okay, so we need this Springboot Starter AOP in our project. We need this. So how I can that is one scenario. So let's assume you are doing this login application. This is login, right? Where you have done the login, just see here. Let's do for login only. File, import, Marvin project, move next, browse, desktop. Here you can use where is the project, Springboot project, Springboot. Select this, finish. Right. So we got this project. So first comment is that you have to add this dependency. Where is that dependency? This is the dependency we have to add. Its name is Springboot Starter AOP. So from where I can get Springboot Starter AOP? We can write the Spring dependency. Springboot Starter AOP. So if you want to add, you don't have to think about the version it will take care of by itself. Just put the dependency. Just I'm adding this dependency. Control C. File. Okay. Think of version. Control S. Right click. Search. Right? Okay. Now, once this is done, next what we'll do. If I want to implement AOP in the, this is how it is. Now we are doing the login application, right? Again, I have to do this login application. This is how the project you have to create. Now what I want is that when I do this login, that time I want to execute the service or aspect before login and after login. Okay, so for this what you have to do, the next task is step 4 is that add one annotation. Its name is enable aspect J auto proxy. We have to use one annotation called here. To add one annotation in this class. Here you get one annotation. Enable. Let me create that project where I have already done this. Not go to this file. I've already done this. Just here. This is our AOP implementation. AOP project, right? Let's see here. This is the project where this is a login application. So first thing is that I should have this dependency, the Springboot starter AOP. Let me check it is there or not. I should have this dependency, Springboot starter AOP. Yes, it is there. Second point is that I should have one annotation, that is aspect auto proxy annotation we have to include in the main class. This is the annotation that you have to add. Enable aspect J auto proxy target class equal to true. This one I have to make it enable. The main class, add this the main class. Yes, this is added in the main class. Main class, right? The third task is that what you have to do. We have to add method interceptor. Assume I am going to put method interceptor. So what I'm going to do is that I have to implement the aspect before executing the method and after executing the method. Correct? Or I have to execute the aspect before executing the business method, or I have to execute the aspect after executing the business method. Anything, right? It's requirement to do. So that means I have to execute an aspect. Business method is already running. If you see business method is running or not, it is already running. This is the login page. This is the controller. If you use /login, you will get login page. Let me start first. Business method is already running. You don't have to do anything because here I have /login. Then I'll get the login page. This is my login page. If I log in here, then the controller will go to /login1. /login1 is this. It will take user ID and password. Then it will take send the user password to the service layer. It will get either boolean or false. If it is true, it will return login success. If it is false, it will return login failure. The business method is working fine. There is no problem. What I want to do, business method, is that before executing the login as well as after executing the login, I want to log the user details. That is my requirement. I want to log the user details. What is the user ID and password? That should be recorded in the logger. Okay, and what is the user's details? That should be recorded in the logger. So for this, what I have to do, I have to create a separate class. Okay, so I have to separate number 5 point. Create separate class or aspect. Aspect means service. Service is logger. For logger service, you have to get a separate class and annotate with @aspect annotation. Which class it is? Let's see here, please. This is the class. That class name is where it is. We created yes. User aspect service. You may find lots of things. Yes, fine. Not a lot of things. This class I have just annotated with @component annotation so that I can understand. I want to use this class as a aspect. That's why I use annotation called @aspect. Now, if you see in this example, we have used two methods. One is called after advice, another is called before advice. We use two methods. So what does it mean? I want to execute the aspect before the business logic. I want to execute the aspect after the business function execution. That's why I've used two annotation, @ before and @ after. What we are doing inside both, we are just printing the user ID and password. We are just printing user credentials, user ID and password. Because this before advice method will take some parameter as join point, string, username and password. It is also taking join point, username and password. So what is the purpose of these two methods in our aspect class is, one method is doing printing the user details before execution of the business function. Another method is doing printing the details after execution of the business function. And you can see the details, right? So what type of functionality it is? If you want to implement aspect before and after the business method, this is called method interceptor. So you are following one method interceptor in this example, right? So this is an example for this. I have created a separate class, right? So for which method it is going to execute? You have method in the controller class, you have method in the service class, you have method in the DAO class. So for which method you are talking about? Correct? In the three different layer, I have multiple methods. So for which method I want to execute this aspect? If you see this class properly, you can see here, I want to execute this aspect for the method that is available inside the user service. Okay, I want to execute this aspect for the method that is available in the user service. I want to execute this method for the method that is available in the user service. So for which method you want to execute this aspect, that method exists in the user service, right? Okay, so in that perspective, let me just check it is working or not. These are the 4 things that we have to do. And if you run this Java application, just now you can see how this aspect actually executed.
If user service have multiple method, then
if user service have multiple methods, that method you have to identify which method I'm coming into that. In this example, if you see in this example, I've started this. I've started the server. Now, what I'm going to do? Log in. I'm going to log in. Login 1, it is going. So login 1 contain in the user controller. It is going to call login check. Login check is going to call a particular method. Login check, where in the service layer? In the service layer, I have this login check, right? So it will execute for this. Let me check it's working or not. Now here, I have to. I should get the login page. So how to get the login page? You have to use http://localhost:8080 as login. So I got the login page. Now here you can insert one ABC, right? ABC. The password is welcome on. If you see here, business executed, where you have written, let's see, in the user service, go to the DAO, see here the login check that gets executed under, okay, no, this is actually function. So when you're executing this login check is actually the method that is defined inside the user DAO. This method is the actual functionality. Correct? Now this method is the actual functionality. Now when I'm calling, this is the actual business method. This is the actual business method. So I want to execute the logger before aspect before this business method. Yes, execute it. I want to execute the aspect after this business method. Yes, execute it. So before and after we can execute a particular aspect, and for this only, for this login check service, and that only we have defined inside this class. Inside this class we have defined using this. Right now, let's see here. You have another one function that is a DAO. Okay, assume the function name is public void demo. Assume the function name. Just write something. So string println. Just write something. I am inside DAO demo method. So this is a simple method. You can see here demo method, and this demo method is defined inside the user DAO class. Right? Now demo method, assume you're calling this demo method from the service layer. Assume you're calling this demo method from the service layer. Control C. Here, demo method. You're calling it using the same thing, same approach. Bring an object of DAO. Okay. And we're calling here j.demo. Now if you see here, currently I have two methods inside the user service. And this demo method who is calling from the controller, you're calling service.demo. Assume service.demo. Okay, so let me check. I'm doing the same things once again. If you execute this, okay, I'm going to username and password I've given. So I started completely new. Just see here, the service that gets executed, it is for the login check method aspect, not for the demo method. If you see this example, it is this service gets executed for the login check method, not for the demo method. I have more than one method in the service class. So how it identify this login check method using this? Where is this class? See this syntax here. You have to understand what is the meaning of this syntax. It is something irregular expression syntax. Now, so right. So now the thing is here, if you go to the execution method of your aspect, if you see here, just you can get some more details from here. See, this is an added before or added after. It is defined inside wordg aspect j lang annotation. Wordg aspect j lang annotation. We'll go to this org aspect go inside API documentation. Here you find the class. Here declaring the point cut. Now you have to go with here how this execution methods actually being used with point cut. You can see here different interacting with the actual functionality. No, you are not interacting with the actual functionality. You are interacting with the proxy implementation of the functionality. You are not interacting with the actual functionality. You are interacting with the proxy implementation of the functionality. Okay. So what we do is that assume this is my service. Service means I'm talking about aspect. I think it's clear, like logger service. So what we do is that this service I'm going to execute for whom? I'm going to execute this service for whom? For business. I want to execute the service for business. Business means the actual method like login. Login is one type of business functionality. 1 minute. If you see here, the aspect is said to be as a service, and the business. Business we can define the login as a business method, right? But what happened in the actual implementation is that business with the help of the service we expose as a proxy to the client. Business with the help of the service we expose as a proxy to the client. We expose as a proxy. So this is actually exposed as a proxy. So we can just write here. It is actually exposed as proxy. This is how actually, most of the business organization, as you know, that you are not going to interact with the actual service, you are going to interact with the proxy. So business with aspect exposed as a proxy to the client. Business as an aspect, business with aspect exposed to the client as a proxy. This is how it actually works. Correct. So the implementation, just now we talked about, there is a lot more than this, right? So these are the part of our Spring AOP implementation. Okay. So related to that, we have done only one example just to talk about, just to understand how we can use Spring AOP with Springboot